Welcome to my lesson on the chords and harmony to the Fat Swallow classic from 1929, Honeysuckle Rose. This tune has been a favourite of many jazz musicians over the years, much recorded, much enjoyed, because it's fun to play over. The A section's really simple, you can just essentially think of it as just 5-1, so it's a fun one to solo over, not too complicated. And this lesson is structured as follows. First I'll go through the background to the song in terms of the form, then I'll show you the chord shapes, run through the chords for each section, and then finally break down the harmony, which is so important if you want to learn to solo over these kind of songs. Guitar wise, here I'm using 1947 L7 acoustically today. One of the most important things to grasp with any standard that you learn, any song, is the form. And this one is straight out of the time it came from, 1929. It's your classic 32 bars, AABA. Here's my chart on the screen. You can get my chart, the chord shapes on the lowest tier of my Patreon, link in the description. But if you just see here, we've just got an 8-bar A section, then another A section, which is 8 bars, B section 8 bars, and back for another A for 8 bars, giving us the classic 32 in total. And one thing I would suggest, when learning a song, listen to it. You can put the chart on your phone, on your computer, whatever, in the real book, however you want to do it, and just follow along and just make sure you can follow the form, you can follow it through as you listen to it. Now onto the chord shapes. This does include a few inversions, so we get some nice bass movement on the E string. So chord shapes, I'll group these by type just to make it easier. So minor 7 chords, we've got G minor 7, 3-note voicing, root, flat 7, flat 3rd. I'm going to use the same chord shape for A minor 7, fret 5. So we've got G minor 7 and A minor 7. Dominant chords, we've got C7 off the A string, root 3rd, flat 7. We're going to use the same shape for D7. And then F7 off the A string. Same shape as we're using for C7 and D7. 3-note voicings again, but off the E string for G7, B flat 7, and that's all of our dominant chords. Now the next chord is a curious chord because it's very similar to a kind of very typical guitar shape. It's like a bar chord, but not quite. This is F. This is a 3-note voicing. It's the root, 5th and 3rd. Very much like this bar chord. And if you find it easier, just play the bar chord. It happens so quickly, the jazz police aren't going to catch up with you. So just use this bar chord if you need to, but I prefer the sound of this 3-note voicing because the bar chord just does unnecessary doubling. To do it, just, bar with the first finger, but only apply pressure to the E and just sort of lazily let the first finger collapse across the other strings. So that's just plain old F. Next chord, F/A. So this is an F chord with the 3rd in the bass, with an A in the bass. So that's going 3, 1, 5. And we're also going to play a lovely chord for F, F/C, which is another inversion of F. It's with the 5th in the bass. This is going 5, 3, 1. And then we have 3 F chords there. You might find that last one a little bit of a stretch. You might have to lower your thumb behind the fretboard. It's a chord worth knowing. It's got a nice sound to it. So maybe be patient with yourself on that last voicing. Remaining chords, B flat 6 off the E string and B diminished. Oh, and one I just forgot, sorry, apologies, F6/9 off the A string. That's going root, 3rd, the 6th, and then the sweet 9 on the top. Now let's piece those together to form the A section. So the A section starts on G minor 7, and we're just going to alternate between 2 chords, G minor and C7, and just have 2 beats on each chord like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 beats on each chord, and that's the opening line. And just notice there, a common thing in terms of the harmonic rhythm, as in that means when the chords change essentially. They're changing every 2 beats on 1 and 3, and that's, very common. That gives us the opening 4 bars. And there's this nice sense of, that movement between the 2 chords, but we're feeling like that's got to go somewhere. And that resolves to this F chord because we are in the key of F. That is our 1 chord, which I'll come back to in the harmonic analysis. The remaining 4 bars of the A section start out from the F chord. We have this beautiful rising bass line. We go F for 2 beats, F/A, so with the 3rd in the bass, B flat 6, B diminished, we keep going up. We're going to go up one more time to F/C, F with the fifth in the bass. Then back down to B flat 7. And then A minor 7. D7, which pings you back to go into the next A section. That's the first ending of the first A section. Put that together. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't know what it is about it. I just love the movements you get there. The movement, as I say, between the G and the C for the first 4 bars is in. You're waiting for that resolve. When that comes, there's that lovely, beautiful bass, and then you can hear the chords working its way back. Now, on songs like this, you'll often notice that the second A section is really similar, but the ending, the last 2 bars, is usually slightly different. And that's what we're going to do here. So we're just going to do G minor to C for 4 bars again. 2 beats on every chord. Resolving to the F. F/A, B flat, 6, B diminished, F/C, then a C7 to F6, 9 for a bar. So what we needed to do at the end there, we do not want that D7 at the end. Why? Because D7 pings you back to G, whereas the F, we've resolved to that stable 1 chord, the key chord in the key of F. So the key important thing then when playing it is obviously you've got a first ending to the first A section, you've got a different ending to the second A section, and if you muddled them up it would just sound wrong. So that's A1, A2. The B section takes a different direction, and that harmonic rhythm of 2 chords per bar is gone. We're going to stay on every chord for 2 bars. So like this, 2 bars of F7, moving to B flat 6, then 2 bars of G7 to 2 bars of C7. So the song's gone in a slightly sort of different direction, and the harmonic rhythm has changed, giving us a nice point of difference to the A section's kind of movement and constant feeling of busyness. We're then into the third A, which is going to be the same as the first. So G minor to C, that 4 times, resolving to chord 1, A minor 7, D7 would set you off to go back again. Just be mindful, if you were finishing the song, you would want to finish on an F chord and not the D7, because it just wouldn't resolve. So now let me play that for you once through, all the way through in time, and you could try playing along with this, and once you get used to those shapes, right? 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4, A1. A2. B. Going off again with the G minor 7. As I said, make sure you finish on the F up here. Use the second time ending to finish the tune. One thing I would just like to add, the last 4 bars of that A section, particularly the first time round, can be very different. You'll notice people do all sorts of different things there. It's essentially just a turnaround, so there are like countless options. So, you know, if you're playing this with someone else, you'd probably have to agree what you're going to do there, basically. Before we get into the theory, the Roman numeral analysis, I want to just speak about how you learn to feel and hear these changes, because I think it's super important for your ability to be able to solo over it. So, you know, you listen to the song a lot, you play the chords a lot, you internalize the sound of the chord changes, but beyond the names of the chords, to me, they mean something. So, just very simply, I see it as these 2 chords, I say, we're not starting out from a stable position, right? We're waiting for this resolve when the F comes in. Yes, once that comes around, things are a bit busy, but, and then you hear, okay, we're going somewhere else, but we're going back to the beginning. And that's how I hear the A section. As soon as you hit the F7 at the start of the B section, as soon as you get a dominant chord like that coming in the B section, it kind of means we're trying to go, songwriters trying to take us somewhere else. And they're trying to take us to that B flat. When the G7 comes in, if you've listened to a lot of music around this era, this period, you know that's coming next. Just you can feel that wanting to go there. I'm going to break this down in a minute, but you want to experience the songs in a way that means something to you. The terminology I use in the sense of resolve or feeling unstable with certain chords or feeling like a chord is leading us somewhere, you might have other ways to describe it, but don't let chords just be names or the Roman numeral numbers. They need to mean something to you, because when you play lines over them, you're going to reflect that, right? You're going to reflect those kind of movements in whatever way you wish to do. On to the Roman numeral analysis. We're in the key of F. First off, let's go through the basic 7 chords you get if you harmonise the F major scale. So F major 7 would be chord 1, chord 2 would be G minor 7, chord 3 A minor 7, chord 4 B flat major 7, chord 5 C7, I'm going to run out of road here, chord 6 D minor 7, really regretting this, chord 7 E minor 7 flat 5, and F major 7 chord 1. I'd love to do it up there, but I didn't have a cutaway. So those are our chords in this key. You'll see we've got the 2 major chords, 1 and 4. We've got the dominant chord, chord 5, 3 minor 7 chords, and a minor 7 flat 5 chord, just like every other major key. Now, the standard way that I always present those is with sevenths, because that is the most common way they're found. But as you'll see in this song, sometimes we just got F, right? That's just chord 1 still. Or we might have B flat 6, that's still chord 4. Or you might have F6 9, that's still chord 1. Just variations of those chords. And so if we're looking at the chords we've got from the key of F, we've got our 2, we've got our 5, we've got our 1, we've got variations of 1 in F/A and F/C, we've got our 4 in B flat 6, we've got our 3 in A minor 7, we've also got F6 9, which is just a variation of chord 1. Now, a fair few of those out of key chords are just dominant chords, and I think to understand that you need to have a grasp of secondary dominance. And it's kind of like, for me, we've got the first layer of chords in key, and then we've got below that the possible typical secondary dominance a composer will likely use. And what I mean by that is, if you take those 7 chords and turn them all into dominants, they all then develop different roles. So say, for instance, instead of playing F major 7, if I played F7, F7 is a dominant from the key of B flat, so it will lead me to a B flat chord nicely. And we do that in the B section. We go F7 to B flat 7. If we turn chord 2, G minor 7 into G7, G7 is the dominant of C. And lo and behold, in the B section it goes G7 to C7. We don't in this particular song, but if we turned A minor 7 into A7, it will lead you to either D, D minor, D7. If you turn chord 4, B flat major 7 into a dominant, to a B flat 7, you get the bluesy feel because it's the 4 chord. That would lead you to an E flat chord. We don't use that in this particular song. Obviously, C7 is our regular dominant, so we're not going to change that into anything. D minor 7, turn that into a dominant. D likes to go to G, so it could take you to G major or G minor, as it does in this song. We could turn E into a dominant as well. That would lead you to A. We don't in this particular song. So that might be new to you, it might not, but all that knowledge sits up here, and for a lot of people that play and understand jazz, because they understand them where songwriters are likely to lead us. The changes make sense, if you play a dominant chord. Secondary dominants, they often go to the usual destination, which is 5 to 1 basically. So I've been through what chords are in the key of F, what the secondary dominants that typically occur in this key are, and that's something you kind of want to pick up over time. If you played a lot of songs in the key of F, I can tell you right now, you'd notice a lot of those secondary dominants coming up. But walking through the harmony of this song, opening line, dead simple, just going 2/5, the quick 2/5 as we call it. So 2/5. At eventually resolving to chord 1. And then we're going to go to chord 1 with the 3rd in the bass. I said that earlier, but just to explain on the music, it says a little 6 next to it, which means it's in 1st inversion with the 3rd in the bass. Moving to chord 4, B flat 6. And that's what that inversion allows us to do. It allows that nice smooth movement between 1 and 4. We then go to an out of key chord. In the red, you'll see sharp 4 diminished. This is something very common in blues and in the rhythm changes progression. Why is it called a sharp 4 diminished? Because, 4 is B flat, so if you build a chord off the sharp and 4th, you get sharp 4 diminished. That leads us gloriously to chord 1 with the 5th in the bass, because the bass line's gone B flat, B into C, which is the 5th of F. You'll see the little numbers next to it, a 6 and a 4. When you see 1, big Roman numeral, then 6, 4, it means chord 1 with the 5th in the bass. Those little numbers may be a little bit pedantic, but I think include them because you might see them elsewhere, and doesn't hurt, does it? But I just think of it as chord 1 with 6 in the bass. And then we're moving to an out of key chord. We're going to go to B flat 7. Now, from our secondary dominant discussion a few minutes ago, we saw that B flat 7 likes to lead to E flat or E flat minor. Doesn't do that here. So what's going on? Well, dominants have a, let's say, promiscuous kind of role in harmony. A minor, so chord 3 is our next chord. Why did B flat 7 work going to A minor? Well, the chord that would normally go to A minor would be E7. That would take you to A or A minor. B flat 7 happens to be the tritone of E7, so it will lead you to A minor in the same way that E7 will. So this B flat 7 is chord 4 as a dominant, that bluesy feel that you get, like in a typical blues progression, but it falls nicely down to chord 3, A minor 7. Now, what's A minor 7's partner in crime? D7. A minor 7, D7 is a 2-5 from the key of G. And we need this at the end of this section to lead us back to G minor to start the next A. Because D7 is the dominant of G, so it will help lead us back there. Now, looking at my chart, I've labelled that, so A minor 7 as chord 3, which it is in the key of F. D7 as 6-7, which means chord 6 as a dominant. Now, I've labelled next to it 5 of 2 because it's the 5 chord of the 2 chord. It's the secondary dominant which will lead you back to 2. Obviously, another way you could think of those 2 chords is as a 2-5 from the key of G. That probably is maybe simpler, but I felt it would be a bit strange to say that A minor 7 is from the key of G when it's a chord that naturally occurs in the key of F. But yes, there's a couple ways you can look at those 2 chords. The all important thing is you understand that the D7 is there because it's the dominant of G and enables us to go again. The second A, as we've seen, is the same apart from the end, so 2-5, 2-5, 2-5, 1 with the 3rd in the bass, chord 4, sharp 4 diminished, chord 1 with the 5th in the bass, and then we're going to go 5, 1 to resolve. Now, leaning back in on that secondary dominant knowledge we went through earlier, F7. If you turn chord 1 into a dominant chord, it usually likes to go to chord 4, which it does, because F7 is a dominant from the key of B flat. And then we jump down to G7. As we saw earlier, G7 is the dominant of C7, so that will lead you there. And I've labelled all of this, 1-7, which is the 5 of 4, leads you to chord 4. And then turning chord 2 into a dominant, 2-7, is the 5 of 5. Now that will happen, the 5 of 5 is super common, particularly in earlier jazz songs, so, something to be aware of. And as I said earlier, if you played 10 songs in the key of F from this time, or even, more generally over the history of jazz, the amount of times you would see these secondary dominants, like turn F into F7, it goes to B flat. Turn chord 2, G minor 7 into G7, it leads to C. These are the kind of things you've got to make sense of because they help you make connections between songs. It makes it much quicker to learn songs, and your ear starts to recognise, okay, so that's why that works, and you can kind of sort of hear where these dominant chords are leading you. Now the final A section would be the same as the first, so just the same Roman numerals on that. Now, I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. I just want to say a few things over on Patreon this month. So there will be, depending on the tiers you want to check out, there is a solo guitar arrangement coming for this song. There is today a comping on 3 different levels for this song, where I break through like a basic way to comp it, what I would call a level 2 and level 3 way to comp it. And there's also a lesson on melody playing, so breaking down the skills behind how to play a melody to a song like this, going from basic way to more interesting ways to vary it and add musicality to it. And then later on in the month there will also be a soloing lesson, as well as other various things coming up on Patreon this month, and access to all my previous materials. So if you're interested in that, please check out the link in the description. As I said, the PDFs from today are available on the lowest tier, and if you've got any questions, you leave them below and I'll get back to you. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson. Don't forget, jazz guitar lessons every Monday. Until next time, you take care.